So a few days ago, I was going through this old box of Hot Wheels I used to own, and I found this ugly looking matchbox truck, the design of which is totally normal. The problem I have is with the colors. I hate them. They evoke this emotion of hatred inside me which I haven't felt in years. Now, I sanded the whole thing down to prepare it for sticking stuff onto it, and because my brain is small and three brain cells and it associates trucks with only two things, one of them being Optimus Prime and the second one being let's not talk about that. I decided to convert this truck into an Optimus Prime, specifically an apocalyptic gaslands version, because the hobby seems really interesting and I've been wanting to get into it for quite a while now. And because I really wanted this entire project to be a small, quick 2-day build, I didn't really have a plan going into it. So I just looked at the materials I had, decided that hey, let's put a gun or a turret behind the truck. So that was the theme I had in mind. And in order to achieve it and put more stuff onto the back of the truck, I realized that there needed to be some structure onto which I can stick stuff onto. So I made this really basic cardboard cuboid onto which I stick stuff later. Using cardboard, I just stacked a lot of it, glued it together, and then pasted it on the back of the truck. Now once I had the cuboid stuck onto the back of the truck, I had a lot more surface area to work with. Because of that, I immediately started working on the turret. The initial idea I had in mind involved me creating a minigun which would attach to the back of the truck like a tank turret. That did not work out. I ended up going with a single barrel gun which attached diagonally to the truck's structure. So once I had the desired configuration of parts I required for the gun, I decided to stick all them together and then kept them aside so that I can stick them onto the truck later. Continuing with the stuff to stick onto the back of the truck, I brought a bunch of pieces I had lying around, a few screws, the lid of an old pencil lead holder, and I began working on those. I drilled some holes on the side of the structure I had made and fit in the screws to act as valves. That part will make sense later. Then I used the cap and just stuck it onto the side because it looked like a good, brain-pleasing shape. During which I had the sudden realization of the fact that I had not yet glued on the turret to the back of the truck. So I did that. That's the thing I did next. Once it was all done and dry, I began working on the one part which you see in front of JCBs. I do not know what it's called. I will check it and write it down onto the screen. I used some popsicle sticks to make that specific part, onto which I later did glue on some spikes to make it more apocalyptic. The entire thing was reinforced using some doctor's tape or paper tape as well as glue. And because the sides of the truck looked really barren, I used some paper clips to add detail. After which I added some more paperclip bits onto the windshield of the truck to make it look destroyed and apocalyptic, as well as adding more random bits here and there and using cardboard as metal plates and adding those onto parts here and there. Now in order to reinforce the front part of the truck, I used some more paper clips because paper clips can really add a lot of detail and can act as really versatile bits and pieces everywhere. Just like that one time I used that paperclip to fix that totally real thing I had. Yeah. Now after stressing out my small tiny human brain, I realized that hey, I can attach this broken piece of a gun to the back of this truck to make it look like a jet engine. And that's what I did. After that, I grabbed a big bunch of straws and random plastic bits and stuck them onto the gun to give it more detail. Remember how I mentioned a few minutes ago how the screws were going to be valves? This is where they come in. I used some wires, connector wires I had lying around, and I put them onto the pencil case box thing, and I stuck them into the wires to connect them. Look at that. Now that's what I call a tiny brain, big brain move. Trademark, copyright registered 2025,000. Using a straw as well as the refill I used for the turret I had lying around, I created a smokestack to attach to the side of the truck to make it look more Optimus Prime-ish. And look at that, that looks pretty okay. Now I used some Fevikwik to attach a broken piece of a sketch pen to the side as a fuel tank, as well as the lid of a glue stick as an exhaust to the front of the truck. After which I took the deadliest force of nature, the sharpest thing to mankind, toothpicks, and attached them to the sides of the wheels to act as wheel spokes. And here's the truck after I added a bit more detail off camera. This includes some sticks on the back from where I will attach a flag later, as well as some bits on the back and the sides. And finally I attached those spikes to the front of the truck to make it look more menacing. And here it is, the completed truck. I masked off all the wheels and the joint parts to get it ready for priming. After spraying the truck down at like 1 a.m. in the morning and letting it dry overnight, here it is. Here's the whole thing. There are certain parts on the undercarriage where the spray clearly did not reach because my small monkey brain was not spraying it at the correct angle, but that's alright. It gets fixed later. The paint fixes everything. That's the best rule of art. The paint fixes everything, right? Now, speaking of paints, the paints for this entire project were quite fun to do because I got to experiment and mix a lot of them. And because most of the paints I own are very bright, I need to dull them down. So I used some pearl white to make them metallic, and then I used some black to dull them down. Once I was done, I painted the entire truck in a pristine coat of paints, of metallic paints specifically, and then I began brushing on some weathering as well as some rusting. And in the case of rusting and weathering the entire thing, it was something I've never done before, because usually my figures have a clean pristine to them. So this was really fun. Now I used a bunch of brown paints as well as metallic brown paints like bronze and mixed them together to create the rust, as well as using some grey to paint onto the places where the paint had been chipped off, specifically at like the edges of the truck, as well as painting on some black smoke effect on parts which would have been damaged by smoke, like the smokestack, the exhaust in the front. And for the final piece of this entire project, I made a small flag, put some counting marks onto it, and drew a Decepticon symbol on with a pen, stuck it onto the side of the truck in order to complete one of my first ever rusting, weathering, and gaslands projects. Now, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to subscribe because it boosts my subscribers whenever I mention that. And here it is, the final reveal of the Horseman of the Apocalypse, a truck of destruction, Apocalyptic Optimus Prime.